Have you heard about Z?
Easy.
𝐊𝐿𝐴
Easy.
Mobile banking. Crazy.
Education loans and salary advances. Amazing.
Introducing the digital youth account. NDBZ. NDBZ from NDB Bank. The future is banking on us.
Creamy richness redefined. Smooth, soft, spreadable. Introducing Ultra Soft Fondue with canola and sunflower oil.
We search the world for the finest things for you. Things like sun-kissed European berries, rich chocolate from the world's best cocoa fields, and crisp cashews and fluffy marshmallows in a quirky Australian recipe.
Immerich, experience the world.
හැමදේම අතළඟ තියෙද්දි දුක් විඳින්නේ ඇයි?
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the 7th episode of the Rugby Show with none other than Boa Athu all the way from New Zealand. We are definitely in the middle of the season that is giving us everything. We've had an entertaining season so far. We've had an entertaining last week, and we're going to have an absolute cracker a weekend coming up on this 27th and 28th. At 8 absolutely action-packed games last weekend. We had stunners, we've had absolute lopsided matches, we've had close calls, we've had cards going up and down, we've had everything, and we're going to discuss everything in the next hour and a half with none other than the expert, with the stats expert, Boa Athu. Start off with the St. Joseph's College taking on Royal College. We had St. Joseph's at the first half in the lead, but Royal College managed to get the score, get the points on the board, and continue their winning streak. We had, of course, entertaining match for sure. Your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, look, always pleasure to be on board here. I hope everyone is well. A very good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you may be. Yeah, what a topsy-turvy weekend we had. And of course, the Middle School Royal College being hosted at Havelock Park by St. Joseph's. Very entertaining game. Lots of drama. That first half, a very testing first half for Royal, who happened to be one of the top favourites, second favourite for mine, behind St. Peter's. They were tested. They certainly were tested. And of course, in that second half, on the stroke of the start of the second half, the kickoff itself, There's a red card for a high shot, which we'll get into and discuss later as well. So, I think it was great preparation for particularly what lies this weekend against St. Peter's, top of the table clash, the clash of the two of the unbeaten teams. I thought St. Joseph's had their chances. They did. But surprisingly, Royal, once they went down to 14 men, the backs actually started showing a lot more urgency, and they started actually playing a lot more expensive rugby, I thought. And that sometimes happens, once you have to absorb a little pressure and the rest of the 14 take a little bit more accountability. So, very entertaining game. I do feel for St. Joseph's because, this was one of those games which I think got away on them. They could have easily finished it off, but it's just that, Royal are such a very classy side, and they know how to overcome adversity. And for playing almost one entire half with 14 men, they come back to win it. So well done to my old school Royal College. The Tuskers, great preparation. Not so good news is obviously they will probably be missing the big lock forward who was red carded for direct shoulder contact to the head of the Josephian player. But look, it is what it is. So you got to play with who you have, play with what you have in front of you. But yeah, that was a great game. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Now, being an individual who has had experience on the world table with how the judiciary side of Raga works out, what are your thoughts on the red card that was handed out last weekend?
Yeah, look, I had a lot of messages about this red card. From the broadcaster's angle, which was, very grateful to the Papre Rugby. From the broadcaster's angle, it looked very clear that you could see direct shoulder contact to the head of the ball carrier. I felt the ball carrier, this is just all physics, timing, and just pure bad luck. The ball carrier did just dip or bend ever so slightly milliseconds prior to the tackle. So that made it look a lot worse. But under the current high tackle framework, if there is any sort of head contact, direct head contact, and if it could have been avoided, so that there's two elements to it. One, is it deliberate? Is it deliberate foul play? If it isn't, is it then reckless? So what reckless means is, could the player executing, in this instance, the tackle, could he have changed what he was doing and could he have pulled out? He could have changed what he was doing by bending his knees a little bit more. Could he have pulled out? Probably not, because everything was happening at 100 miles an hour. And we're here now. But the reality is, because from that angle, it looked like there was very reckless direct head contact. No questions. It's pretty simple. Straight red card, which is what the referee issued. One thing I do have to say is I've seen some reverse angle footage on this. And the reverse angle that is from the side of the touchline, it's very clear that the player did have a significant drop, as in the ball carrier, it was Marasinghe in this instance, touching the ball. He did drop his height. Now, all this is just, like I said, unfortunate timing. So I do feel that it was a bit of recklessness as well as just pure bad timing. So there was an element of accidental, or what you call rugby incident contact in it. So it really depends how you go to the judiciary and argue this. Royal College, of course, can afford very expensive lawyers. If they lawyer up and go to a judiciary and actually argue this case, there's every chance they could get off the hook. But I don't know how the entire judiciary is handled in Colombo or in Sri Lanka, beg your pardon. And of course, there are stipulated timelines. Everything has to happen within 48 hours. Everyone has the right to a defense. There has to be credible evidence. So there's a whole raft of things. The referee's report, the citing commissioner's report. So I don't know how all these things happen. Yes, I do have a lot of experience being involved in judiciaries, both from good and bad instances. defending my own players, defending players at provincial level as well as Super Rugby level, getting involved in them. So it really depends how this judicial plays itself out. But the news I have, or what I've been told, is that this royal player will probably have a 1 week suspension, which is mandatory. Now, I don't know where all these rules are stipulated, but that's what I have been told. So hopefully that's the case, and then we can get on with life.
With life. Let's take a quick peek at the highlights when St. Joseph's College took on Royal College. Last weekend, Royal College obviously running away with the victory, 28-19.
As St. Joseph's College host Royal College.
Pace here. And that's the try. It's been scored, and St. Joseph's quite easy for the defensive side. All they have to do is make sure that they keep the ball. And he manages to lay it back nicely. It opens up. Conversion, and it is straight through the post. He obliges again the young fullback. Just short of the line. And here's Farooq. Looks like he scored. Looking to go back on the blind side, changing his mind, coming back to the open. Mindulka with a good pass out, and that's hands as often as possible. And here's a space. Pathirana. And in the end. But Nabil Yahiya's kicking. 4 tries, 4 conversions from Nabil Yahiya, who continues his great form with the boot.
Was the highlights from when St. Joseph's College took on Royal College last weekend. The next match we had was another Hill Country derby. Rivals Trinity College Kandy taking on St. Anthony's College Kandy. So St. Anthony's showed off a bit of a new approach. They were very aggressive with their start. Got the points on the board early. Obviously, Trinity running away with the victory, getting 32 points on the board. Boa, your thoughts on this match?
Well, they clearly watched last week's episode. I did say you got to start well. You got to bring the intensity. You got to bring the heat, bring the physicality. They did all of that. And they started like a house on fire. And they got their driving maul going. And of course, the intensity of the driving maul, it has to be said, was matched by good friend of mine, Kevin, who was on commentary. His enthusiasm and, the way he actually called how Trinity, St. Anthony's actually drove that maul over. Wow. And if only St. Anthony's could match that same intensity for 70 minutes. And also, I did say, if they're not quite fit, you've got to manage your minutes, you've got to manage your bench, you've got to manage the impact on how you use the player. So they did that to, I thought, a certain degree with a lot of success. But soon as, the conditioning started to fade away, that's when Trinity got the opportunities. And of course, Trinity had a couple of intercept tries, very smart from their skipper, the young man, Anuhas. I think he's a very intelligent player. He read the play really well, and that brought them back into the game. And of course, as I said before, conditioning, St. Anthony started fading, and then defense became optional. Whenever you see, school teams start missing tackles, that's the conditioning. That was the winning and losing. And at the same time, taking the points, kicking goals. So, it's the messages is starting to get through. I think it just comes down to really consistency and who's got the better conditioning. So for Trinity, I thought it was a good win. It would be a real morale boosting win. They did leak a few points and they did look a little bit they had a little bit of lethargy early up. But, it's all learnings. And Trinity, I've told you, they've got this yo-yo form line, up, down, up, down. So hopefully they're just trying to get away from that. But St. Anthony's, they're condemned to another loss. And I hope there's no relegation this year, because unless they can really turn this around, these guys are in that sort of, low fire zone. But no, it's a good game. That's how it went. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I was actually trying to watch, I think, 4 games in split screens, on 2 screens just on my side here. But no, it's good. It's a good game. Always enjoy a good game of rugby at the Lions Den. And well done to the Lions. There you go.
Let's take a look at the highlights from when Trinity College Kandy took on St. Anthony's College at Lions Den last Friday. Trinity College running away with the victory, 32 points to 19.
Yes, you're right. Both teams, Trinity and Anthony's, of course, will want a win anyway. It doesn't matter. Let's go. Look at that. He got the first goal, and the Trinity forwards just couldn't manage that. A huge drive. Absolutely team.
Here's 𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐴 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐴. He puts the ball through. St. Anthony's.
Conversion good.
Shahan Altaf. Shahan Altaf for Trinity. Lovely offload there. Here's Shahan Altaf. He passes it out wide, and that with the momentum as well. They are making their way. Here's their number 2. Here's their number 7. Trinity going offload from the Antonians. Trinity are more likely to score. Out on to 𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐴 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐴. Here's St. Anthony's. Back here's Anu 𝐻𝐴𝐷𝐴𝐷𝐴. He puts the ball to board. He might go over to score another try. Oshan Gunran, the skipper, goes over the try. Key stats, Trinity College with 5 tries and 2 conversions and 1 penalty. On the other hand, St. Anthony's. And our NDB man of the match is Yevan Hulangamua.
Next up, we had a match where I don't think Bo was going to like what the final score was. It was a lopsided match. St. Peter's College taking on Zahira College, 62 points to 8. St. Peter's, their third 50-plus score of the season. Peter's College, they're doing something right. They continue to do something right. Bo, your thoughts on what St. Peter's College is doing right at the moment?
Yeah, look, I'm not a fan of these lopsided games because it just tells you that the A division is, well, not quite an A division because it's, I'd like to see very competitive games, and that's what brings the fans more excitement, and there's a lot more unpredictability. If you know that the top sides are going to turn up and bash the not so top sides by 40, 50, 60, in this case 62. It was 62 for 8 after 70 minutes of run scoring sort of thing. It's a bit of a cricket score. So it's never a good thing. But St. Peter's can only play what's in front of them. And Zahira is actually not a bad side. They're not a side who deserve to be beat by, 40 or 50 points. That should not have happened. But then it's just that this St. Peter's side, once they get momentum and once they start attacking those edges and they start getting their rhythm of that passing game and they have the skill set to execute it, it's very difficult to stop. The only way you can actually stop it is by employing what you call a blitz or a rush defense. So what that means is that the channels of 10, 12, 13, so the first 5 to second 5 to the center, you got to try and cut the ball or cut off the circulation, and you can't let the ball go past the 13. But because these kids have a very expansive attacking game and they can pass both ways and they can pass, good distances, anyone who's going to employ a drift defense, so what a drift defense means is that you're not going straight to get the man in front of you. You go to the man on your outside. So 10 would go to 12, 12 would go to 13, so on and so forth. Now, once you do that, you're giving up space. So against teams like St. Peter's, you do not want to give them any space. It so happened that particularly in the second half, first half was pretty tight. Zahira did really well. But then again, this is where the conditioning comes into play. St. Peter's a very smart, opponent. They bided their time. And when the opportunity arrived, the floodgates opened and they just kept attacking width and depth, right? And they have some incredible players who have footwork, speed, and they know where the holes are. So it was just, it was a bit of a hiding, really. And like I said, I felt really sorry for Zahira because they're not a side who deserves to be beat like that. But this just goes to show how good this St. Peter's team is. And, once a few tries get leaked, you sort of lose your shape, you lose your concentration, and then you just start falling off tackles, which is what happened to the Zahirians. And 62 points. So the way the St. Peter's side is going, they might, if you had a full round robin, imagine if they had to play 15 other teams, they could have ended up scoring 1,000 points. Who knows? So well done to them. Zahira, pretty tough. I know this is a very bitter pill to swallow, but you got to take your medicine like men and come back better next week. There you go.
It was definitely a rain of fire last weekend on Zahira College. And let's take a quick look at the highlights for when St. Peter's College scored a mammoth 62 points against Zahira College. The highlights obviously brought to you by our partnership with Papare. So the highlights are now yours.
Between the home team, St. Peter's versus Zahira College. Bank try for St. Peter's. Vihan Rusid goes under the post. Tries to put that inside pass. Knocks back. Play on, says a referee. And it's going to be the second Amana Bank try. Here's 𝐿𝐴𝐺𝐬 once again, sniping it through the gap. And the conversion is trying to get that decoy pass. And Pasindu Silva with a lovely offload to the number 7. That's A1. And that's the Amana Bank try. Rahul with the conversion and no mistakes. Make much of a yard. Zahira defense on him. Shenika Pereira again, the ball carrier. And this time gaps open up. And that is 𝐿𝐴𝐺𝐬. 𝐿𝐴𝐺𝐬 slips out. And he's going to go all the way. Here's Vishen Pereira. Pereira beats one, fence two. He's still going, he's strong. Can he go all the way? And match points of this Dialogue Schools Rugby League. There you go, 10 try victory.
Those were the highlights for when St. Peter's College took on Zahira College. Next up, we have another lopsided match. St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia, taking on Sri Sumangala College, Kandy. Now, STC had a bit of a rocky start, but they have seemed to found their groove. They're playing the game right. They scored 57 points against Sri Sumangala. They're the second on their group. Both your thoughts on what St. Thomas's College have finally found their groove? What do you think they're doing right at this point?
Yep, just like St. Anthony's, they would have listened to what we discussed last weekend. I said, win the battle up front, be fearless, run nice and straight, carry hard into traffic. Exactly what they did. And they started really well. And the thing is, at this level, when you start really well, it gets you confidence, right? And at schoolboy level, a little bit of confidence can do wonders. And once the confidence is there, the body language, people start talking to each other, the communication, it's what we call comms. The comms are on fire, and sometimes these kids talk too much. And, things happen. And they believe in the skill set they have, and they start executing a lot better. So I think it was a mixture of these. And we know St. Thomas's have the skill set to, particularly win the battle up front. And of course, Sumangala, they're back in the A division. A bit of baptism of fire. And I have to say, this draw really hasn't favored Sumangala one bit because, they've been up and down from upcountry to Colombo a number of occasions, couple of weeks back to back. So, it does take a little bit of toll because you have to understand these aren't professionals. These are school kids. And I know fans out there, I get a lot of messages every weekend, week in, week out, beg your pardon. And I think you guys have a lot of expectations of these players. So the reality is the school children. So eventually it's going to take a toll. But I think St. Thomas's, they started really well. They won the battle up front. And when you have these opportunities, when you're playing lesser teams of lesser strength, you got to try and make the most of it. So that's what happened. Not a big fan of these big scores, but again, I'm sure St. Thomas's and their fans aren't complaining.
Take a quick look into the highlights for when St. Thomas's College took on Sri Sumangala College. The score at 70 minutes was 57-18. And at the other end of the highlights, we will have Tehran continuing with the recap from last weekend.
The host St. Thomas's College and Sri Sumangala. He had decided to straight the line, but nonetheless, looks like the Thomians are going to go the ball back in their own 22, and that's not very clever by the Thomians, and the loose version in full swing, and that's a wonderful short pass by Sumangala have so far managed to maintain their discipline. Tomian to good effect. And looks like they will go in for another Amana Bank. Audible from where we are. They're really close. Would be a great way to go into halftime after what they have experienced. And conversion is successful as well. Sumangala taking the short tap. Comfortable in managing, and now the Sumangala deciding to go out wide and been bundled into touch
points, and they have 3 more.
Though, but going on the short side, and looks like it's a try. 𝐊𝐴𝐴 with the conversion attempt. Cleanly collected, and the Tomians have formed the driving maul and have gained the momentum, and looks like it's going to be the Tomians breaking a couple of tackles. Is Tharusha Dilshan close to them, trying to get their third try. Proved to be in favor of the Tomians.
In the game, in that crucial passage of play when they opted for the 3 points.
St. Thomas's, of course, 57 points to 18.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the highlights of St. Thomas's hosting Sumangala College Kandy at Mount Lavinia. 57 points to 18. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tiran Bazir, alongside from team Quadrangle here. Boa, nice to see you again. Let's move on. I won't take any more of anyone's time with the next match. Wesley versus Kingswood at Royal Complex. Wesley hosting the game, and with a fabulous win of 43 points to 17. So let's dive in for the highlights straight away instead of Boa's thoughts later on.
Wesley College and Kingswood College.
So here's Wesley on the march with the rolling maul, and yes, doing his dummy is going in their way as well.
Now that was a very powerful run from Muthumala. Exactly what Kingswood needed.
St. Peter's College and at Pallekele.
And here's where dummy gives the offload out to Senanayake, and Senanayake goes over for the first Amana Bank try in the second half.
Getting a win after a massive high.
Now this is really disappointing, and it's going to be another Amana Bank try for Wesley. Fawaz, probably one of the easiest tries he'll ever see. Wesley College now, that's brilliant. He spotted the gap to perfection, and Rabban, he awaits.
And sucked in.
College, this has been the story of the day, but they have the advantage. The penalty advantage comes their way, and that's off the game. Wesley College, 7 tries, 4 conversions. Kingswood College.
Let me just check.
Yeah.
Okay. Audio lost. I'm just looking at the chat. That's all. Okay. So audio is back on, and we're back on the Wesley attack. So it was well rehearsed, well executed, good crowd as well. Kingswood, yeah. They would have felt bullish after beating Thurstan the week before. Unfortunately, that party came to a crashing halt against a team who, they've been promising to deliver. So I think the Wesley fans, I'm just checking the chat just to make sure the audio is all good. It was Kingswood again, a little bit underwhelming, so they'd be very, very disappointed. But I like the way Wesley attack. I like the way they create that diversionary tactic in the midfield by running a nice hard decoy line and attacking the edge. And of course, the forwards played very, very well. Good, solid, fast ruck ball. And if you look at their attack pattern, they just move it side to side. And they have that skill set to be able to play that expansive game. So I think Wesley will take a lot of confidence from this. But tough opposition lies ahead.
Yeah, actually, right. You're right, Boa. I mean, since this is actually it was a huge game with Kingswood and 𝐕𝐴𝐶𝐻. I was there physically at the game as well. Before I give my thoughts, I hope we are audible, me, myself, and Boa, to all of our viewers watching around the world and in Sri Lanka. Please let us know down in the comment section if we are not audible. We will surely make it back. Back to my thoughts. Boa, as I said, I was there physically at the game, but I noticed there were opportunities where Wesley could have scored extra points, but then there were slight silly mistakes done, like fancy passes. It's stuck in my head, that fancy pass done by 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐝, the way he broke the line, and the captain of Wesley. He broke the line, Boa, and he was with Dilhara, number 14. That fancy pass that's cost the entire try. Those are key points of keeping that scoreboard pressure, because I was there as well. Kingswood tried scoreboard pressuring with the penalties they got, if you notice, Boa. Scoreboard pressure. So I was actually trying to aim at the Washington, but then Wesley could have used those small try opportunities to score instead of doing those fancy passes, knock-ons, which really, really cost the game, brought down the momentum of the audience as well. You get to the crowds, they're screaming. Once you break the line, but then something like a knock-on or a fancy pass happens, which doesn't work, the crowd drops down, which really entirely lose the game. So that's all my thoughts. And I hope Wesley and Kingswood would make up the mistakes from the next few matches onwards. And the best of luck. Next up, we have.
Buzz, before you go, I just want to add something. You made a very good point. Yeah. Look, everyone watching out there. Look, once you make a break and you have numbers, let's say you're attacking that left-hand edge, you're going towards the left corner. If you have numbers, if you have two players on your outside, chances are 99% of the time, just simple hands, just catch and pass, draw your man and pass is going to do it. There's absolutely no need for a cut pass or a skip pass or a fancy pass. That's a 1% play. I've seen this so many times, coaching players from junior age grades all the way to premier grade. That attractiveness of throwing a skip pass, because it looks cool, it looks really nice, and everyone goes, whoa, that looks amazing. But unfortunately, you end up not scoring the try, because all it does is just shuts down the space. Just draw your man, catch and pass. It's that simple. You can thank me later, and coaches, I will send you my invoice via email, because this, I'm telling you, this is the most simplest bit of advice I can give any player or coach. But it'll be the most effective, because draw, catch, and pass. Don't do anything fancy. Keep it simple. Once you score the points, then you can celebrate. So I just thought I'd get that in.
Exactly. No, exactly. You're right, bro. You're right. Because like you said, this is school rugby. These are not professionals playing. This is not Sonny Bill Williams giving that fancy pass to Mar Nonu at the Rugby World Cup. This is not that. This is school rugby in Sri Lanka. So play it safe. Stick to the basics. That's all we have to say. Because at the end of the day, it costs the scoring of the points, which eventually brings down the entire, it brings the entire momentum down, because those simple points will be helpful in the end, because Kingswood, gave a solid fight, even though they were getting beaten up. They were giving solid fights, solid tackles, solid hits, even though they couldn't do much. And scoreboard pressure, I realized from those penalty kicks, scoreboard pressure, it was very, very good. Good challenge to Wesley as well this time. So, hope coaches and players keep in mind, stick to the basics, because like Boa said, it's cool rugby. Stick to the basics, next up, we have Vidyartha taking on Thurstan College. An impressive game at the first half, though, Boa. Vidyartha leading 21 points to Thurstan lead 20. Before we go on to toss, let's just have a sneak peek of the highlights.
Live here from 𝐕𝐷𝐷𝐴, bringing you the live action of the game between Vidyartha College and Thurstan. Quite an exciting evening, a beautiful evening here at 𝐕𝐷𝐷𝐴. Boda for Thurstan with the scoring is concerned. And
yes, this is going to be most probably
for Thurstan with an opportunity to add 2 more points, and he cleanly cleared Vidyartha with that grubber, and Gayan Pereira is chasing it down.
But knocked back, they say. And
barge to the defense of Vidyartha, just few meters in front of that whitewash. Can Thurstan find something here? Yes.
He's still going. 4. And he's going under the post, is it? On its way towards the try line. And this is going easily. No.
Trying to defend this. Thurstan Vidyartha are moving forward. They are inches away from the try line. Can they go over? Increase that deficit to 20. And he does.
Able to win. Not knowing that 70 minutes is needed to play. And here we see another one. He just clarified it with that last try. There we see the key stat.
Well, there you have it. Vidyartha College taking on Thurstan College at 𝐕𝐷𝐷𝐴 grounds. Final score being 52 points to 20. It's a huge margin between the two schools battling it out. But at half-time, I remember I was at the St. Thomas's versus Sumangala game where I saw this message. Half-time, Vidyartha 21 points, Thurstan 20. I was mind-blown. Like, really, really mind-blown. I had to double-check some of the people that saying it is true, but this is the actual score game. I mean, someone joking around. But eventually that was the half-time score. But then Vidyartha came back in second half, keeping Thurstan at the same scoring point as 20, 52 points to 20. Boa, your thoughts?
It just goes to show, it's taken Thurstan about 6 weeks to actually catch up to play one proper half of rugby in this league. That's the statistical data which you can take from that. And they're competitive for 40 minutes. And I've seen so many sides do this. Last year, Zahira v Royal, Zahira was very competitive for about 40 minutes, 3-3, and they got blown away. So this is where the experience, physicality, intensity, skill set, and better sort of clarity on your game plan. Because in the second half, you saw Vidyartha, they knew exactly what to do. They had a lot of clarity on their game plan. They carried really hard into the middle, and then they started shifting the ball to the edges. And of course, the playmaker and my favorite player in this season, skipper Gayan Pereira. I think this boy's got a huge future ahead of him. I think he's just going to walk into the candy side. I mean, rewind 25, 26 years ago, I was in the same position. I was playing schoolboy rugby, and I was lucky enough to play club rugby. So there's a certain mindset you need. This kid, he's got it, right? And I think we saw glimpses of that, just the way he put people into little gaps, little holes, and of course the way he carried himself and the way he used himself out wide to attack and score points. But well done to Thurstan, outstanding effort in that first half. Not many people would have expected that score, just 1 point in it. I keep saying this every week. You're getting better every passing week. There's a few percentage points, just getting better. But this is the A division. So it's a very steep learning curve. Now that learning curve isn't as steep, but it's just that in that second half, they just fell off the cliff. So 72 points all in all. Thurstan, I think the lesson they'll take from this is that they probably need to manage their bench and impact a lot better. But Vidyartha, it's a very classy side. They can score tries from anywhere. So I know 52 points sounds like a bit of a touch-up, but I wouldn't be too disheartened, Thurstan. You know, I've got nothing but respect. And, you know, Coach Colin, a smart man. I've known him for a few years now. So I think you can take a lot of heart, a lot of confidence from this. But that second half, Vidyartha was outstanding. And, at 𝐷𝐴𝐴𝐿, you know, once that crowd comes into it, it's hard to stop. So, but no, well done to both sides. Very entertaining game. 72 points in it. So, well done.
Yeah, exactly, bro. Well done, Thurstan. Epic, good fight from Thurstan College, but with that taking the victory, well done. And especially Guyan Pereira, the skipper, Boa, I believe he has a bright future ahead, these skills and everything, definitely. Played at Nitula grounds, as you said, Boa, one of your favorite grounds in playing rugby. Next up, we have another good game that happened last week. DS College taking on Isipathana College at Sugada Stadium. Isipathana winning 27 points to 24. Not a huge margin like Vidyartha and Thurstan, Boa. It's such a small gap. Before we go on, let's just have a look at the highlights.
It's DS Senanayake College hosting Isipathana College.
DS Senanayake, they will score the first try of this game. And Steven Perativan gives it out to Giant Vijayaratna.
Abdullah, as the conversion is
getting some more good meters. Yes, Isipathana, will this be the try? Still not the first try. Nimantha Sandeepa, and that will be the first Samana Bank try. Yo, is it?
Lining up his first kick off the tee.
Around doing some great work. Shahid Sumri, can he add the 2 points? Yes, he can.
Moving in to the 40-minute mark. Shahid Zumri makes no mistake from
and
line up the penalty, and he makes
a kick to give them the lead, and it goes to DS.
Penalty. He wouldn't have kicked any.
Isipathana, can they finish the job here? Shakib Sumri touches down.
Isipathana, 3 conversions and 2 penalties. 2 tries, 1 conversion and 4 penalties for DS.
Stadium, Isipathana win the match 27 points 24. Before we move on, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any comments, any questions, please drop them at the comment section at our YouTube Live and the Facebook Live show. And okay, I'm not going to speak anymore. Boa, this is for you. I know this was one of the epic matches you want to see in a really long time. Go for it.
Okay, so this is what we call the Rugby Show effect, right? So what the Rugby Show effect is, all the teams we spoke about, and you asked me last week, what do these teams who didn't do so well have to do? I said they've got to start well. Well, guess what? It's exactly what DS did as well. They took the advice and they started like a house on fire. I thought they had literally the perfect first half right up till that last minute where they had a slight error. They gave a penalty and then they invited Isipathana back into the game. And either side of that half, I think that's what really cost them, you know. But what a game. What a game. I mean, sure, we had some errors in between, but for excitement, both teams, they were trading penalties. It was punch, counter punch, the lead changing hands. DS getting into a 15-point lead. No one expected that. And then, it took some character from Isipathana. They had to dig real deep, and you need heart, and you need a big shovel for that. And they showed that they had the heart and stomach to, put up a fight, and they came back to win. So, end of the day, win's a win. Now, I know from the Isipathana spectrum, most of some of their fans, every time they play, they expect them to win by 100 points. Well, this is schoolboy rugby. It's not going to happen like that all the time, okay? And I said this, and I keep saying this, it's good to be tested. Once you get tested, you know what type of character your players have and how the team pulls together. So I think this, so far, game of the season. And of course, some very interesting patterns of play, because initially we saw DS score with a exceptional driving ball. They just phenomenal stuff, least expected, right? And in then they got the outside backs and there was an intercept and that, hard out chase. Zumri was chasing, I think it was the skipper, 𝐊𝐵𝐵𝐿𝐿, and he scores. And then there's a couple of mistakes just before halftime and then Isipathana come back. So outstanding game of rugby. I absolutely loved it. It was a thriller minute stuff, but what I really liked about it was how tactical both teams were, and how Isipathana came back into the game, and of course the very last play. Usually you'd expect a team like Isipathana would score a runaway, tearaway try in the corner and win a game, right? But no, they actually got out of jail by scoring what I would consider is one of the smartest plays of rugby I have seen this season. It was Zumri Jr. He was biding his time. He kept folding around the ruck. He waited for the opportunity. It was a two-man tackle. He pushes his first tackler to make the tackle roll away, and then he goes straight over the top. Perfect tackle, nice base. His hips are nice and wide. And of course, the referee was right on the spot. I have to say, the referees, after they've taken quite a bit of flack, this particular game, this man handled the game very, very well. I thought has to be said. So really exciting game. Isipathana, look, like I said, I wouldn't read too much into it because all the naysayers will say that, Isipathana should have won by, 300 points, whatever. The reality is, teams 5-6 weeks into the season, they learn from their mistakes, and DS, the classic dark horse opponent, they almost had it. They almost had the mother of all upsets this season. But like I said, Isipathana showed a lot of character and they just backed themselves. So I think both teams would have learned a lot from this. More so, I feel the green machine, because now they know if they have to go to the well and dig deep, they can. Okay, it's against better opposition. I feel they will have to. So they could use this as a kind of a, second gear learning experience, because against the better sides, particularly Royal and St. Peter's at some point, when they have to dig deep, they're going to have to shift to 4th, 5th gear. And I don't think just a steal alone is going to win them a game. They're going to have to score tries. And on the other hand, DS, wow, they just emptied the tank. I don't think they could have done anything more. Sure, there's a few errors here and there, but folks, that's to be expected, and I think they played out of their skins. I have nothing but respect for this team. Well coached, Coach Asela. I think you can consider yourself a little bit unlucky. There was a couple of instances I thought, the calls could have gone either way. But at the same time, Isipathana were technically more accurate in certain breakdowns. So outstanding game. I hope every game ends up like this. The fans are, biting their nails on the edge of the seats. And, as a neutral, as a rugby analyst, I really enjoy that game. This is the sort of thing we live for, folks. So, the fans from Patan who expect Wuthering Heights, look, just chill. It's a great game. DS, amazing stuff. And, of course, for all the neutrals, I think we all witnessed, a nail-biter of a game. So, enjoy it while you can.
There you have it. From the man himself, a nail-biting game. DS versus Isipathana College. Like you said, boy, it was this Division A rugby. These Division A schools rugby. This is what to expect. Not
Buzz. I'm just going to jump in there. One thing I do have to say is, look, one of the things Isipathana really needs to learn to and work on is that, their obsession with wanting to go too lateral, too early, I think is starting to hurt them a little bit, particularly in the first half. You got to be willing to carry hard into traffic or into space, and earn the right to go forward first, go straight up the middle through the guts before you go out wide. I think they're just overdoing the lateral thing a little bit too much. So if any of you guys are listening out there, just work on that part of the game. As far as DS goes, it's just finishing those opportunities and not opening the door by making errors against classy sides, because they will punish you. And that's what happens. So I think Patana just trying to go too lateral all the time. It's just something they need to work on, I feel.
There you have it. Well done. well done for both DS and Isipathana. DS, after an unexpected loss with St. Thomas's last week, coming back strong with Isipathana. It's just a massive match. As Boa mentions, a nail-biting match from our very own statspert. Can you believe it, ladies and gentlemen? Can you believe this? Well, I can see a bright future for our Isipathana player Zumri. I believe he can go places as long as with the other player, Gayan Pereira. Yeah, I mean, I was also shocked, Boa, really shocked at that these results. This is Division A rugby, as you said, Boa, Division A rugby. School kids playing, but this is Division A rugby. This is a huge reminder to all the schools who have just come, Sumangala and Thurstan. This is what you're going to deal with in the later years ahead. All right, let's move on to the last and final game which happened last week. I saved the best for last, especially for Boa Athu. This match was an epic game. I mean, let me just put it out. The Dharmaraja College taking on Science at Boa 15 points to 10. Science loss. My goodness, Boa, I know you must have been shocked at the core. Let's hold it. Pause for a minute. Let's take a sneak peek at the highlights.
Dharmaraja hosts a Science College.
Coming in for Dharmaraja, yes, 𝐕𝐵𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐵 is over. Favor of Science. That's a lovely couple of going inches close. Still on their feet is Science, finally being regulation kick. And right through the middle goes
Dharmaraja College 15, Science College 10.
Well, there you have it. Boa, I give it to you. I'm not going to say anything.
Rajans, what can I say? Well done. You won the battle up front because you saw how well the forwards carried. And, Science, wow, they hung in there. They really hung in there because the level of physicality Rajans have been working on. And again, clearly they've been listening to what we've been saying. Win the battle up front. Science are just really tenacious, and of course, with the current circumstances and what's happening, it must be a very testing time for them as well. So great game and a slight upset, to put it mildly, because on the hot seat I did tip Science to go home the better. So clearly that didn't happen. But could have gone either way, and it was a fantastic game, topsy-turvy. Again, these are the sort of games we want to see. We want to see close games. We don't really want to see blowouts. Both teams contesting. So well done to both teams. Outstanding work. And of course, Science College, one of my favorite teams. Always have time for them. And I think Rajans is starting to grow on me as well. The thing is this, Buzz. Anyone who takes what we say on board and then goes and puts it into practice, they are now starting to see that it works. It works really well. And they're starting to show some results. So I think there's a lot of learning happening here. And good on them. Good on the coaches. And obviously, Rajan's coach is Kavi. I mean, someone who I played against, one of my peers. We had many years playing against each other at Rugby Show level. So well done, coach. And I think the Rajans fans will be smiling a little bit more because they've had a bit of a tough time. It's been up and down for them. But as far as Science College goes, great effort, close, no cigar. But against Trinity, I think they get another chance, and Trinity coming down this weekend. So Science will be fancying their chances.
Yeah, exactly. Well done to Raj. I was also shocked to the cook because I was actually going to believe you, Boa. Science win the match at, my mistake, not Boa Gamba, at Palakale though. So yeah, congrats for both Dharmaraja and Science with the epic fight. Luckily, it wasn't a huge margin, so it's just a close call. And once again, I want to thank the Papar and Dialogue for allowing us to use their highlight videos. A massive thanks to everyone, which makes this live show a success. And just a reminder to all our viewers, please do not be shy. Drop comments and on our Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Keep asking questions. Boa is still here with us. Keep asking questions. I'm sure we'll be able to answer you. And with that, that was the end of last week's games recap. And now I give it back to Sherwin to talk about the upcoming games this weekend. Sherwin, back to you.
There we go. You heard it from the man himself. What happened last week. Let's dig into what's going to happen this coming weekend. We have another 8 absolutely cracker matches. Start off with St. Joseph's College taking on Kingswood College. Both teams could use the victory. St. Joseph's College coming off a close lost to Royal College. Kingswood College coming off a loss as well. But how do you see this match turning out this Friday?
Yeah, I think Joes will really bring the physicality because I think they're building up as well. They went close against Royal. I thought they had every chance to win that game, but they just couldn't close it out. It's just that Royal brought that physicality and they countered that physicality with, that's what the Tuskers from Jurassic Park do. They just, when in doubt, they just like to flatten the opposition. So I think, Joe should have learned from that. And obviously Kingswood, not the strongest opposition. So this weekend, Joe's well set, and I think they'll look to flex a little bit of muscles.
Next, we have Isipathana College, the Green Machine, traveling down to meet the weather to take on St. Anthony's College. Isipathana College on an unbeaten streak so far. Will St. Anthony's College be the team to defeat it? Will they be mark on the Isipathana record? Boa, what do you think is going to happen?
Short answer, extremely unlikely. Because, like I said, St. Anthony's, to me, they're just struggling with a bit of conditioning. They're not a 70-minute team, and that's going to come and bite them in the backside. We saw what Isipathana did for 70 minutes. When they're pushed, they came out swinging. So I think Isipathana will take a lot of confidence. They will feel more so relieved, but at the same time, understand what they did was, it took a little bit of special character. So they'll want to try and right the wrong, particularly in that first half, because, the way they conceded that driving maul, I thought was a little bit embarrassing, for a better choice, because I know, Patana they set very high standards for themselves. So that's something they'll work on, right? So I'm expecting a Green Machine to come out all guns blazing, and they'll really want to, make a statement as well, because they're playing away from home, and they've got the traveling fan base as well. So yeah, I'm expecting Patana to put a blowtorch onto St. Anthony's. However, if the weather turns to custard, I'll be really interested to see how Isipathana adapt to the underfoot conditions. And like I said before, they're just overdoing the whole lateral attack thing far too much. From a coaching point of view, that needs to be addressed. That's more tactical sort of thing. And I'd probably save that to the last quarter, because just the way this whole season is unraveling, it's very unrealistic to look at scoring tries from the word get-go by playing that type of rugby. Because it just, to me, just doesn't exist. There's only a couple of sides, maybe 3 or 4 sides, who will fall apart once you start attacking. But yeah, Isipathana should have a very good outing.
Go. Next up, we have
up in Candy.
Most anticipated match this weekend, if not the entire season. We have the big two, Royal College taking on St. Peter's College for the coveted BC Angie Trophy at Royal Complex. Both teams coming off undefeated streaks. This match has everything. The head coach of the Sri Lankan team taking on the assistant head coach of the Sri Lankan team. Both teams having undefeated streaks. Both teams definitely want to carry the league trophy this year. How do you see this match turning out?
Yeah, look, if it's going to be a fast, firm surface, it's very difficult. I can't see anyone defeating the St. Peter's side on a fast, firm surface. Okay, because they've just got too much skills, too much space, too much pace. Beg your pardon. And they find space, right? So if conditions are really good, I think definitely advantage St. Peter's, no question. However, there are two really interesting stats. Number one is the games at Jurassic Park, at J Park. Royal have not lost to St. Peter's in a season proper, a league fixture, in 10 years. Now, I can't tell you beyond what I know as to why these stats exist, but there are certain venues teams defend with their life against certain opposition. And I think, obviously, Royal, there's a high chance they're going to miss their big lock forward because he's going to be out for the suspension for that red card. They're going to lift. I just sense that at home, and they will bring enormous physicality. They'll just want to try and smash St. Peter's up front. And Wesley, if you recall, when they played St. Peter's, they successfully did this for about 20 minutes. They brought the heat up front and they started bending the line. It's just that Wesley didn't have the skill set and experience to exploit that, and the ruck ball was far too slow. So if you really want to dismantle St. Peter's, that's pretty much in a nutshell. You've got to be doing that relentlessly for 70 minutes and just keep them, don't allow that ball to go to the wingers out wide, because soon as people like Silva have space and time, they're going to cause chaos. St. Peter's, on the other hand, they need to try and avoid set piece. What Royal will want to do is they'll try and walk from set piece to set piece, preferably the line out, and they'll look to launch every single time. Now, if you allow Royal that space, it's game over. They'll start piling on the points, beg your pardon. However, if St. Peter's can cause chaos, get into unstructured footy, attack from pretty much everywhere, open up a few gaps, get some missed tackles, and sow the seed of doubt into Royal, move them away from that structure, then I think there's every chance the floodgates might open. Okay? That's probably a lower percentage play, but that's how I see this game unraveling. But as I said before, the venue is a huge stat. It's the obvious elephant in the room for me. Royal playing at J Park is very, very, very difficult to beat. Okay, and end of the day, all they have to do is win by one, and wins a win. But St. Peter's right now, they're the red hot favorite. And of course, the second thing, the weather. The weather. And we saw what happened at Nithawala when Royal played Vidyartha. It was, it was close quarters, trench warfare, and for large parts of the game, Royal negated that out wide lateral attack. So for me, that's number two. But St. Peter's have proved that in the mud, they can still run. They can still score points. The week before against St. Joseph's, there was big pools of water at 𝐵𝐵𝐴𝐴𝐴. But that was at 𝐵𝐵𝐴𝐴𝐴. This is at Jurassic Park. So this is where the whole thing. And look, the whole physicality thing, I think St. Peter's will be up to it. Right? Whether they can defend that for large periods of time and withstand 70 minutes is the ultimate test. And also for Royal, I know they can tackle, but can they defend as a unit when there's extreme pace and great skills out wide? That's the question mark for me. So I guess we'll find that out. But as far as results go, I think, look, this is the round robin fixture. So whoever loses, it's probably not going to be the end of the world as well. Although the fans will probably feel that it is. But this is all very tactical, because you have to understand they move into a super round. So there's a lot more at stake here. Of course, you play to win, you prepare in a certain way, but from a analytical point of view, whoever drops the game, it's not the end of the world. And I have a strong inclination. My preseason form lines clearly said St. Peter's top favorite, Royal second favorite. I think these two teams will eventually meet for a playoff style scenario in the super round. According to the school section, it's a neutral venue. I don't know how all that's going to play out, but I sense that's what it is. So I think there's a lot more at stake than just trying to throw everything at each other and put all your eggs in one basket. But as far as how the game's going to be broken down and how it's going to be played, I just feel that's how it is. St. Peter's are very much favorites, no denying that. Okay, they can score tries on demand, but Royal at Jurassic Park, I've said that 4 times now. It's a formidable opponent. So all roads lead to Jurassic Park, and we'll find out, is it the big Tyrannosaurus Rex, or is it the Velociraptor, the fast little dinosaur which can run around everybody in St. Peter's? I sense Royal will be relishing this opportunity, because as the underdog, they're very comfortable, and St. Peter's won't be comfortable at all to be the favorite, but you are, guess what? So yeah, very intriguing. And I think I've spoken too much. So there you go.
Go, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from the statspert, Boa Athu. This 27th of July, this Saturday, it's going to be Jurassic Park, the battle of big boys from Colombo. Of course, you can watch it unravel. The match is happening at the Royal Complex when Royal College takes on St. Peter's College for the coveted 𝐶&G trophy. Next, we have two teams coming off victories this past weekend. St. Thomas's College taking on Dharmaraja College. St. Thomas's College seem to have found their groove. Dharmaraja, the same. How do you see this match turning out this weekend?
Yeah, look, before we get on to that, I've just see a comment from Lohit. He's talking about stats and numbers, and he says SPC has beaten Royal a total of 4 times at the complex if we include knockouts. That's the key word, knockouts. Royal are pretty abject when it comes to knockouts, and it's not on their radar. So he makes a very valid point, but I'm not talking about knockouts. I'm talking about what lies ahead in the round robin, the season proper, or the league. Different beast. The reality is that's the stat. That's the hard stat. So I just that's. Thank you for pointing that out, Lohit. But I have to counter that by saying knockout psychology completely different. Doesn't even feature in Royals' radar. In fact, this year they might not even play the knockout because they have this habitual tendency not to show up for the knockout. Anyway, going to the St. Thomas's game. Yeah, again, I think the Thomians just need to do more the same, really. Just bring the physicality. They've got a good, solid forward pack. It's got to carry hard, set that platform. Once they get the platform going, it's all about confidence. And they like to carry through the middle. Play what's in front, play a very direct game. It's like, taking some sandpaper and rubbing it on your hands. It's abrasive. And that's what they really got to do and keep it really simple. Once things fall into place, those patterns will click, the rhythm will come in, and the points will get on the board. So I think that's pretty much how I see this game and how St. Thomas's need to play as well.
Boa, we have 4 more matches coming up this weekend, and to discuss more, all yours, buddy.
Thank you very much, Sherwin. Thank you so much. Next week's 4 more matches we have. I was actually listening to the Royal PS match Boa was speaking about. I mean, I'm actually looking forward for that. Jurassic Park, T-Rex versus Velociraptor, one of the greatest rivalries in the past as well, in dinosaur history. I mean, really going to be shocking as well. But, best of luck to all teams, though. Best of luck. That's all I can say. I cannot say anything else. I believe Boa said much. Next up, we have at Havelock Grounds, DS taking on Sri Sumangala College Kandy. Now, Summa, in my perspective, they have showed kind of not much of a increase in the game, where they have come up like Thurstan College along with Vidyartha last week, but they have showed some fight backs with Science and other schools in the past. But Boa, what do you think? Of course, we are rooting for DS because of their huge come up last week against Isipathana. But what do you think?
Oh, so to correct you, I don't root for anybody.
Yeah,
I just, for me, it doesn't really matter who wins because I look at it from a analytical point of view, and also I've got a little soft corner for Summa as well. So not everyone will be rooting for DS, but look, I think on paper DS should walk this through, right? But here's the thing: they put a enormous effort against Isipathana and try to sort of regain that physical stamina and the spent force the psychology is going to be quite challenging. So if they can get their headspace right, get back on the horse, I think the transition is going to be really easy. I know it's only against Summa, but for Summa, I think based on that alone, there lies the chance. And I think that first half, they got to try and start really well and do some damage. So that first half, I believe, is going to be a lot closer than what most people would suspect. But DS, again, superior technical and also tactically, they're starting to get better every week. It's just that with their skill sets. Now, best example is that line-out drive. They had one solid line-out drive. They had one opportunity. They declined the shot. They took another line-out. and they completely missed out the throw. So it's just those inconsistencies they need to get out of the game, which is really important. But I think all in all, DS should win this, but it's not going to be as easy as what people expect it to be, purely because they had to put one heck of an effort last weekend and trying to sort of get back on the horse. It's a lot more challenging than what people actually think, particularly at first 15 schoolboy level.
Indeed. As you said, you mentioned that you rooting for anyone, but just to remind you, we have the hot seat coming up right after this, so eventually your answer will turn up. But best of luck to both teams, though, Summa and DS. Basically, if every team playing next, if they have the right game plan, as well as the momentum, the confidence, and the proper mindset, anything is possible. We cannot, just because we tell something, doesn't mean it's going to turn out. For example, yeah.
And listen, Summa have 3 supposedly really talented kids who've just been cleared, according to my sources, the Supreme Court, to play. So it's, I mean, look, I really don't want to get into the ins and outs of this, but for God's sake, I mean, this is schoolboy sport. Children trying to play rugby, just let them play. I mean, if you have to go to court to get court orders, so that, I mean, it doesn't really reflect well on the people trying to deny these kids, So whoever made the decision, give yourself an uppercut, take another one. And So anyway, I'm just pointing out, I think Summa will have 3 exciting players. So I think DS will really have to come out and, be on their best behavior, so to speak. Is Summa going to win? I don't know. It'll be one heck of an upset. Imagine that. DS nearly beating Isipathana and then next weekend coming. So that's probably not going to happen. Okay, but hey, dreams are free, and Summa, dream big. I did say 4 years ago, your big day under the sun is not far away, and you proved me right. Okay, so I don't know, this time next week we'll be talking about an upset. Who knows?
Indeed. Well, yeah, we can't come up with a solution straight away. It's just school rugby, as you said. The turnouts are way above our paycheck, really. So anyway, DS take on Sumangala at Kalwa Sports Club on the 27th of July. DS fans, I hope you're ready for this. After an immense game with Isipathana, I hope the fans are ready for this game as well against Summa. Summa, best of luck, and to all the teams as well, which Sherwin mentioned. Next up, Zahira is taking on Thurstan at Zahira grounds. So Boa. So Thurstan, after immense fight back against Vidyartha, do you think Thurstan has a chance do you think this is going to be a match where it's going to be nail-biting as well?
I hope so. But again, after a big effort, the relatively lesser experienced teams will struggle to sort of come back and read. This is what I talk about, the yo-yo form line. When you don't necessarily have that experience, you put a big effort, and then you. So I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope I'm proven wrong. But Zahira would be, it was like throwing a frog into the blender, So I think they'll be fancying their chances to get some points. And Thurstan, hey, look, you've got nothing to lose. Just keep firing those shots and be fearless. See, I told you to be fearless last weekend. You were fearless, and look what happened in that first half. You'd have been over the moon. So, but yeah, I think Zahira should, with some relative degree of comfort, get the W.
Yeah, and with Zahira hosting this time, playing at Zahira grounds, means the Zahira fans as well are kind of momentum bringing. They bring the momentum with the team as well. So I hope it's going to be a good match, nail-biting match. Best of luck, Thurstan and 𝐷𝐷𝐿 at Zahira grounds, 27 July as well. Another great match at 𝐕𝐴𝐴 Stadium, Boa. Vidyartha taking on Wesley. What do you think? I mean, it's going to be a really, really tough match. Nail-biting as well.
Outside the obvious Royal hosting St. Peter's, I think this will be one of the games of the week as well. Vidyartha, I think the best thing which happened to them was that little shock in that first half against Thurstan, no one would have expected that.
Yeah.
So again, I keep saying this, you got to get tested. You got to get tested and you learn from it, and then they came back and then racked up 52 points. So they'll be better off for it. Wesley, they're at Kingswood, they'll be feeling bullish. So I think both teams will have a lot of confidence, and I hope they fire shots because they have very equally good styles. What I like about this Vidyartha side is that they're very good shifting the ball edge to edge, and they have the skill set and they have the handling skills to do that. So if it's a dry service, I think we're in for a high-scoring game, and I just feel that Vidyartha obviously at 𝐕𝐷𝑖𝑒𝑤𝐴 with the crowd, and given that they put 52 points last week, this week it's a bigger game. That's going to be a bigger crowd. So that's going to be a real key factor. For Wesley, nothing to lose. Just go fire everything you have. Empty all your shells and see what happens. But Vidyartha obviously have the edge given that they're the home team.
Well, let's not get into conclusions yet, Boa. We have the hot seal later on. Save them. Yeah, really. But this is my thoughts as well. Wesley have put on a great show this season. Especially I love their forward pack. Really, from the last few games. I hope they keep up the momentum this time. And Vidyartha, knowing well it's in the home ground, 𝐕𝐷𝑖𝑒𝑤𝐴, I think it's going to be a good game. I think both of the teams have something up their sleeves for this match. After such a tough game with Thurstan for Vidyartha, I hope they have something up their sleeves to go against Wesley. Wesley taking down the Royal Mall in St. Peter's. From that experience, I hope Wesley has something to come up with. Best of luck. And the game which has to be confirmed yet, 𝐶𝐻 College versus Trinity College. This is have a small talk about it, bro. How do you think, in case the match actually takes place? Because right now, I see the post on Papare, it says TBC to be confirmed. What do you think, Trinity and 𝐶𝐻?
It will happen, no question, because opposition are high-profile opposition. There's no question it will happen. And I know I'm just gonna troll a few people here. I'm not going to mention names because there's a few people saying that XYZ are responsible for this. Well, if these so-called keyboard warriors are so happy to support teams like 𝐶𝐻, maybe you should host them in your own backyard. Maybe that's the best place to host. Anyway, look, it is what it is. Okay, I sense that this whole thing with 𝐶𝐻 is going to blow away very, very quickly because they're playing. Big opposition, schools who have a little bit of say in this. It'll probably be for all we know, it might end up at Police Park. And it might be a case where spectators are allowed back in because, again, it's just not fair on particularly the parents of the players. But it's going to be a close game. And look, Trinity again, that yo-yo form line. I should keep going back to it, and they've got to come back down to Colombo yet again. This is schoolboy kids. Don't ever underestimate what's called travel fatigue. Some teams are very good at that. Some teams aren't. You got to move away from home. Just in and out of the hotel. Trinity's usual haunt is, Hotel Janaki. There's a big story around that last year, if you recall. Fortunately, they're not playing Zahira, and fortunately, it's not before the Rugby. I'm just having some light-hearted humor. Okay, it's okay. It's all right. We just gotta, too tight sometimes. You gotta loosen up a little bit. Anyway, but yeah, I think the game's gonna go ahead. Trinity on paper should win this, right? But is there another upset into making? I don't know. What I like about Trinity is, they launch really well from the right and left edge when they have a scrum. They're really, really good, and they play this backdoor pass of Shah Altaf, who I think is going to be one heck of a player. He already is. His skill set is outstanding. But that's just how I see the game progressing.
Yeah, because one of the good games I saw Trinity and 𝐶𝐻 where we cannot say a proper answer really. But as you said, I hope this happens. I hope this match happens, even though
it will happen. Probably at someone's backyard at this stage.
Sure, maybe. Yeah. In case someone's backyard, we all know there's not going to be like a Police Park backyard. There'll be now 7 players from each team play 7th game as well. But even then, let's hope for it. Let's hope for the best. Best of luck to all the teams here. Let's get back to the hot seat. Boa, are you ready?
I am. It might be a troll pack on Facebook. Who knows?
Let's open. Wait, let's open. All right. Hot seat. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen. Boa, this is for you. St. Joseph's and Kingswood at Havelock Park.
St. Joseph's by 17 points or lesser.
St. Anthony's versus Isipathana College at Nittewala.
Isipathana by 12 plus.
Royal and Peters at Jurassic Park. Clash of the Titans.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to go with two results, okay? I'm going to go with one, Royal by less than 3 points, or we might have a draw.
Wow, a draw. Right. Yeah. That's probably one of the results that's going to happen.
I just look, honestly, I can't split the two teams. The venue is such a huge factor. It's not funny. And if you recall last year, the teams met right at the beginning, and both teams are really underdone. But this year, it's a very different beast. Both teams have been through the ringer, and two contrasting build-ups as well. What happened last weekend? I just feel that Royal might be a little bit more prepared, particularly playing at home, for those tight moments. Whereas St. Peter's, they've just probably destroyed everyone in their way. And sometimes, that's not the best way to prepare. I always believe in tight games. The tighter the games, more well you're prepared. But that's just me.
True. You're right, Boa. Well, you heard his opinions. Either a draw or Royal winning by 3 points.
Or
Next
less.
up,
3 points or
DS
less.
taking on 3 points or less. My apologies, Boa. DS taking on Sumangala at Havelock Park. DS hosting.
Yeah, I think I'll go with DS 13 plus.
St. Thomas's hosting Dharmaraja at Mount Lavinia.
13 plus St. Thomas's.
Zahira College taking on Thurstan at Zahira grounds.
Zahira 17 plus.
Vidyartha and Wesley at Nittewala.
Ooh, this is a hard one to go. I'm going with Vidyartha 12 points or lesser.
Wow, right. You heard from him. You heard from the stats. But another one. Last one. He's most probably going to be in the backyard of someone's house, though. Science and Trinity.
Oh, look, I've got to say Trinity because they're the much fancied opponent. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to go real left field, and I'm going to go for an upset. And I know a lot of my Trinity friends will be very upset with me. But you have to understand, I don't pick on emotion. I have my own little formula which I use. I'm going to go with Science College, 5 points or lesser for a monumental upset.
Wow. All right. There you have it. From our statspert Boa Athu, ladies and gentlemen, that'll be the end of Hot Seat as well as the end of our rugby show. Big thank you to Papar and Dara for allowing us to use their highlight videos, which makes this show a huge success. For anyone who has any questions right after the show, please drop a text to Boa Athu. Please feel free to contact him, especially the fans from Trinity and Science, where you heard from the man from the Hot Seat. Boa, any more last words before we end for today?
Look, I'm just going to quickly answer a question I see on the chat from Mulan, Sri Ward. Right, he's just basically asking, he says that he believes that Sri Lanka rep side can be, the under-19 side, on 20 side can be number one in Asia. Why isn't it happening? Look, bottom line is potential is one thing. Realizing your potential is a completely different story, okay? To realize your potential, it takes a lot of hard work. It takes planning, detail, and you have to prepare in a certain way, and you have to be very, very relentless. Okay, so that takes time, that takes resource, and that takes a lot of discipline, both on and off the field. The reality is, and I'll say this now, the reason why I only cover schools rugby and I don't bother about club rugby and representative rugby in Sri Lanka is, to me, it's an absolute waste of time. The reason is it's like a soda bottle. It's just living for the moment. And whereas school rugby, it's amateur game. We all love it. I mean, I make a living out of rugby. I got all my opportunities because of schoolboy rugby, what I learned there, and I have applied that here, and I've done okay. So the bottom line is, it takes a lot of planning, and I don't think the current systems and processes and personnel, and of course you have to understand, each school is very concerned about their own success. So if we are to have a proper under-20 structure, we're going to have to put some of those individual independent goals aside and sacrifice that for the better good. Now, if you say this, so that means that you have to release players, not let them play in the schools league. I don't think that's even possible. That's remotely possible. So I think it's just, to me, as things are, and I'm always a straight shooter. I'm black and white. I live in the real world. I don't live in some imaginary fictitious world. I don't think it's possible. And anyone trying to do that will be shot down very, very, not literally, shot down very, very quickly. Best example is over the last few weeks, I highlighted a number of shortcomings based on analysis to do with the referees. Now, as soon as you start trying to get into this sort of analysis, those who are at the receiving end think it's all very personal, and they try to shoot you down. So this is exactly what's going to happen here as well. So it's always going to be a band-aid thing. When there's Asiad or whatever, they'll hastily put a team together for 4 or 5 weeks. We'll just work on our potential and X factor. And I think this is what is plaguing sport in general, high-performance sport in the island nation. We just always look at this band-aid thing. It never works. It takes a lot of time. Everyone wants the success, which is the tip of the iceberg, but not many people actually wanting to be part of that process, that long journey, those hard yards. It's too difficult. Hopefully, Mulan, I've given you some degree of an answer. I know it's not what you wanted to hear, but that is the bitter truth, my friend. Okay?
Indeed, thanks, bro. Just a reminder of the games happening this week. 26th July, we have St. Joseph's taking on Kingswood at Havelock Park. On 27th of July, we have St. Anthony's, Isipathana and 𝗏𝗏𝗏, Royal and Peters at Jurassic Park Royal Complex Grounds, DS Sri Sumangala at Havelock Park, and St. Thomas's and Dharmaraja at Mount Ravenna St. Thomas's Grounds, as well as Zahira and Thurstan at Zahira Grounds. 28th July, we have Vidyartha taking on Wesley at 𝗏𝗏𝗏, and the to be continued game is going to be Science College and Trinity, which will be notified soon. Boa, and I just want to wish all the teams all the very best, and the referees all the very best in doing a good job for all these games. I heard last week's games were actually doing very well for referees end. Best of luck. Anything you want to say?
Obviously, with I can only say what I see, and if there's something which needs to be criticized, open, happily, black and white, we will do that. But at the same time, if someone does something really well, we will say, yeah, well done. But in the past, I've done that, and then all of a sudden, the very next week, it just all comes crashing down. So I don't want to jinx anyone.
Basically, the yo-yo effect happens all over again.
It's the yo-yo effect, So,
yeah.
But now, best of luck to all teams. Particularly looking forward to Royal versus St. Peter's. And look, let me say this to you, fans. Regardless of what happens, just enjoy the game. It's a game of rugby, okay? I know there's a lot of pride at stake. There's more to life than a game of rugby. Just enjoy it. These school boys, not the end of the world. And leave all this bitter twistedness on the field, and just enjoy each other's company, and don't take these things too seriously. But having said that, I know they will do exactly the opposite.
The yo-yo effect, boy. It always works. Yo-yo effect always comes to play. Yeah. Well, there you have it. Beautiful words from our very own statspert Boa Athu. Thank you very much, Boa. Glad to have you for this year's episode. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a big shout out and thanks to Papai.com as well as Dialogue for allowing us to use their highlight videos. Best of luck to all the teams taking part in next week's game, as well as the referees. Until next week, this is me, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 from 𝐿𝐴𝐶𝐿𝐴, and Boa Athu all the way from New Zealand signing off. Let's rock and roll. Have a great season.
Thank you.
Hey, have you heard about Z?
Z. 𝐊𝐴
Easy.
Mobile banking. Crazy.
Education loans and salary advances. Amazing.
Introducing the digital youth account. NDBZ. NDBZ from NDB Bank. The future is banking on us.
Creamy richness redefined. Smooth, soft, spreadable. Introducing Ultra Soft Fondue with canola and sunflower oil.
We search the world for the finest things for you. Things like sun-kissed European berries, rich chocolate from the world's best cocoa fields, and crisp cashews and fluffy marshmallows in a quirky Australian recipe.
𝐊𝐴𝐺𝐻, experience the world.
හැමදේම අතළඟ තියෙද්දි දුක් විඳින්නේ ඇයි?